Spartans, welcome back to another video. It's your boy Leonidas here with a health update video. I know it's random, but we're going to give you an update as to the things that a lot of you guys have been asking questions to. We're going to be looking at what led me to be getting checked out, what some of the doctors have said, and then where we stand now as of August 2023. As always, hold the line until next time. Peace. So this story begins around 2017-2018. I tear my ACL in the fall of that year. I have surgery in December of 2018. I do about 8 months of physical therapy. At around the August-September timeframe, I am cleared to do some more mileage. And when I say more mileage, all I mean is getting off the treadmill and getting off the stationary bike for warm-ups and allow my body to be under more impact, such as running on the road and running on the track. So I take off, I start feeling really good, but I get to about the 3/4 mark and things start to feel really weird. My leg starts to go numb, and it starts on my right side, starts at the heel and the toes, and it goes up to my knee. And by the time it hits my knee on my right side, the left side has followed suit. Not as intense at this point, but still numb on the left-hand side. At around the mile mark, when I get done with the run, my entire lower chain is completely numb from the hips all the way down to the feet. And I think to myself that this isn't good. But I'm young and dumb. I'm 23 at the time. I decide to push through for another couple years, which hindsight's 2020. Don't do that. If you got something wrong with you and you know it's wrong, go get it checked out. I'm 29 now, still young, still dumb, but at least I know a little bit about preventative care and making sure that I take care of my body, because I did not do that. Fast forward to around the middle of 2020, I decided, all right, this is enough. This isn't getting any better. I tried to push through, see if it would go away on its own. Is it maybe some side effects from the surgery? So I sit down with my surgeon, who also happened to be my primary care manager, and she goes over some things that this could possibly be. We do some tests, and she comes to a conclusion that this is compartment syndrome. And what compartment syndrome is you have your calf muscles, and inside your calf muscles you have nerves that run down the length of your shin. But also with compartment syndrome, your calves, which are already filled with blood, just like the rest of your muscles are, your calves already have a heightened pressure built in with compartment syndrome. So when you do some sort of exercise or high impact activity such as running, those already high pressurized calf muscles become even more pressurized, putting pressure on those nerves, causing your legs to go numb. That's as scientific as I can tell you, because I have researched it but have already forgotten it. So she diagnoses me with compartment syndrome. So I say, all right, sounds good, I'll keep pressing. She says there's not really anything you can do to get rid of it unless you want to do surgery. And she said surgery would be a 50-50 fix for your calf muscles. And if it doesn't work, you just have kind of a weird looking calf at some point. So I'm happy with the diagnosis I have. She said that it's unlikely that any more damage will be done, because it's just something that will happen and then it will go away after you get done running. Fast forward to 2022, I go back to the doctor because it's not getting any better and it's getting worse a little bit. Instead of it now being 3/4 to a mile, it's now around half a mile that my legs start to go numb. So I see my new primary care manager. I left the one that was up at Joint Base Andrews, and I am now down here in Texas. So I see her, we do some tests, and she says that this doesn't look like it's compartment syndrome, but this isn't her specialty. So she sends me to a doctor off base. And the doctor off base, they do a series of tests. They do a nerve test where they stick a needle into your calf muscle like this, and they do like some sound wave or something like that, and then they pulled some blood to see if there was any genetic possibilities or any sort of disease or anything. They did a whole myriad of tests, and they came back inconclusive with all those tests. Everything turned out to be normal, perfectly healthy. From what they could tell, I look like a 100% healthy 28-year-old at this point. But she does her due diligence, which I appreciate her very much. She orders an MRI for my back and my neck. And the purpose of this back and neck MRI is to see, is my spine contorted? Is it twisted? Is there any sort of pressure put on my spinal cord that might be the cause of this leg numbness? So I get called into the doctor's office after the MRI was done. She says, hey, your back looks good, your neck looks good. There's some slight deterioration in the bottom part of your spine because of your job that you've described to me. And I was like, yep, makes sense. Being a defender for at least 10 years, wearing that battle rattle and running with it and rucking with it, that'll do it. She says, we're going to put a pause though on figuring out what's going on with your legs, because we found at the top of your neck, if you guys can see here, we found something that's not supposed to be there. She told me that she didn't know what it was. She was going to have to order an MRI with contrast. But then she flips to this scene right here, and this is where she marked it out on me. Like, this thing is not supposed to be here. You have your cerebellum here, and then you have this, whatever it was at the time, we didn't know, right here. I asked her what it was again, and she said she couldn't tell me because there's no MRI for conclusive evidence. At which point I was like, all right, she doesn't seem worried, so I'm not going to be worried. Maybe it's just some fatty tissue. The MRI done without contrast was scheduled at the end of March, at the beginning of April. And the MRI scheduled with contrast was scheduled for 7 weeks later, around the 30th and 31st of May. An MRI with contrast means that they inject dye into your arm, so when they put you into the machine, you get lit up like a Christmas tree, and they can see everything wrong with you, everything right with you, and see all pieces pertinent to the investigation, if you will. I get done with the MRI, I go home. 2 days later, I get a call saying, hey, that appointment to go over the results that was scheduled for June 15th, we want you to come in tomorrow, June 2nd. At this point, I'm like, all right, something's a little weird. There's no reason that they should reschedule an appointment that was scheduled 2 weeks later to 2 days after the MRI. There's no way they work that fast. I get a call about 2 hours later after I make some phone calls letting other people know the news of the rescheduling. And this phone call is from a neurological surgery center saying, hey, we got a referral put in for you by your doctor. And I was like, that's weird because I have a appointment with my doctor tomorrow to go over the results of my MRI. And at this point, I'm in like full panic mode. Not full panic mode, but I'm just like, all right, I'm thinking the worst case scenario. So I pull up to the doctor's office June 2nd. She sits me down. She doesn't really look me in the eye at all. I'm trying to say some pleasantries, and she's not really returning those pleasantries. And she sits me down. She starts going over the MRI results here. And this is a top-down view of my brain here. This is my nose. This is the back of my head. These are my ears right here, cheekbones, whatnot. She turns around the screen to me and shows me and says, hey, this is the left side of your brain or right side of your brain, I can't tell. And this is your other side of your brain. And she goes through and she scrolls and she's like, hey, this is what we started to find in your brain with the contrast. And it doesn't look like much here, but as I show you different angles, it'll start to be more pronounced. Healthy brain, white stuff here is spinal fluid, and then there's this light gray mass here. Another image here, it's about the same angle, but healthy brain. But as we continue to scroll through, you can see in the middle here, this middle portion, something start to take form here that's not supposed to be there. Healthy brain, this round thing, not supposed to be there. She shows me another angle and says, hey, amongst that other mass that's there, which will go into a different angle again, there's these ventricles here that hold your spinal fluid. And within this ventricle, there is some abnormalities that look like nodules. And at that point, I didn't ask what nodules were. I just wanted her to continue on with her diagnosis and her explanation of what's going on. She then shows me this side angle here and says, hey, this is the side of your brain. This is your nose. This is your mouth. And she scrolls and she's like, this right here, we are 100% confident it is a brain tumor. She continues to tell me about the brain tumor and tells me about the symptoms that it might start to cause if it starts to grow, and she continues to go, and I'm half listening at this point. And eventually she talks about the subject that's at hand about this video, and she says, hey, I'm pretty sure that you have brain cancer. And when she said that, I had brain cancer, I tried to stay as positive as possible, thinking already of things that I could maybe control. Hindsight 2020, I couldn't control anything, but I was trying to grasp any sort of action that I could take to help better my circumstances with the words that she just said. For those of you who don't know, brain cancer is deadly. You have about 18 months to live with glioblastoma. If you're lucky, 18 months. If you're really lucky, 3 years, but you're not expected to survive brain cancer whatsoever. So when I heard the news brain cancer, I was devastated to say the least. So the 4 days between finding out that I have brain cancer from this doctor and meeting with the surgical team on that following Tuesday were the longest 4 days of my life. The very longest 4 days of my life. I wasn't sure if I was going to make it those 4 days to the neurological surgery center. It felt weird walking out of that doctor's office knowing I had brain cancer. I felt like a normal person, but knowing and confirming with the doctor that I have something in my head that's not supposed to be there is a surreal feeling. Those 4 days, I slept about 3 hours combined. I couldn't sleep. I really wasn't hungry. I think I ate one meal a day and it was bad. And throughout those 4 days, I was sleepless. I slept about 3 hours total. I couldn't eat very much. People try to come cheer me up, and it's very hard to cheer somebody up when, especially in the beginning, when they have something very serious. I appreciate looking back what they were doing, and I said thank you to them on the flip side, but during the moment, it's very hard to say thank you, and it's very hard to be appreciative, and it's hard not to feel selfish at that point. And I'm sure a lot of you guys would think, oh yeah, you can be a little selfish, but it was hard not to be selfish and try to be graceful and gracious to people when I just wanted to be alone. I wanted to be alone. I didn't want to hang out with anybody. I wanted to be by myself with my wife, and even sometimes then I just wanted to be by myself and just ponder life. So those 4 days pass from the diagnosis, and we get to the doctor's office, and by the time we get to that doctor's office, there's a lot of peace that's been put over us. We're talking to our pastor and praying a lot and just trusting the Lord that he's going to use it for his glory and that he'll get me through it, and if not, that my death might be used for his glory and bring people to the Lord. So we get back to the doctor's office, and the nurse comes back, and it's like very happy, a very good bedside manner. He's like, nurse comes back and says, hey, what are you here for? I tell him what we're here for. He checks my vitals. He says, all right, just sit tight. We'll get the doctor in. So the doctor comes in and says, hey, what are you in here for? And I tell him, hey, I'm in here for brain cancer. And he kind of looks at me sideways. He's like, what do you mean? And I was like, yeah, the doctor I had just saw, she went over the results with me and said, hey, there's these nodules in here and then this tumor in here. And she said, yeah, you have brain cancer. And he furrows his eyes a little bit. And he's like, that's not what I saw through the MRI results. And at this point, I'm just like, don't give me that hope. Don't you give me that hope. So he says, sit tight. He leaves the door open. He goes to the middle office where they're at. There's like a central location where all the doctors sit. He gets on the phone, talks to who I can only presume was the doctor that gave me the diagnosis. They talk for about 7 minutes. And so he comes back. He says, hey, follow me. So we follow him back into this little cubicle, this little bullpen of doctors. He turns his screen around and he goes over the results that he came up with. And he says, hey, if this was a cancerous tumor, there would be a white rim around this, or there would be the entire tumor would be white, because tumors, apparently, if they're cancerous, they have a heightened blood flow that goes to them because they like to sap the energy and sap the nutrients around you to grow. Non-cancerous tumors tend to be black and white like the rest of your brain. At this point, I'm stunned. I'm like, so you're saying I don't have cancer? He's like, nope, you don't have cancer, but we definitely want to get this out of here, get you on the road to recovery. So I was like, all right, anything at this point. I'm like, anything you want to do, doctor, I am down. If you want to chop my head off, take the tumor out, then put my head back on, I'm A-okay with that. You've given me a second chance at life with this news here. And I continue to ask him and continue to try to ask questions in a different way, using my cop mentality of asking questions in a different way to try to get different answers to see if he's lying. Obviously, he knows what he's talking about because he continues to give me the right answers. So we start celebrating a little bit because there's a tumor in there that is not cancerous, but it still needs to be removed. So we're not celebrating completely, but we're thanking the Lord that it's not cancer. So that appointment with the doctor who told me it wasn't cancer was June 2nd. But I do have a neighbor who does have glioblastoma, and he got his treatment done at UT Southwest in Dallas, which is one of the top brain surgery centers in the nation. So I knew that there would be good care there. So I decided to ask this doctor, could he send a referral to them? And he said yes, he would be more than happy to do that. So he sends the referral. Long story short, a couple weeks pass, couple months pass, and we are in August of 2023 where we stand now. And I have just gotten back from my appointment 2 days ago, where I met with the doctor at UT Southwest, and they have decided to not take out the tumor. The reasoning that UT Southwest does not want to take out the tumor, and these are amazing doctors, so I trust their judgment, is that he believes that the doctor at UT Southwest believes that the tumor is not causing any of the symptoms that I'm having. He doesn't believe that the tumor is causing the numbness in my legs. He doesn't believe the tumor is causing the balance issues I've had and the headaches that I've had. He believes that if that was the case, then the tumor would be much larger. It would be pressing on things that would cause potential droopiness of my face, along with slurred speech and maybe a seizure here or there. While not the news I wanted to hear a couple days ago, I at least do not have to have my brain cut open as of now. The doctor also mentioned that the juice might not be worth the squeeze, because anytime you do have surgery, there is a risk, especially when you are working around the brain and working around the brain stem and working near the spinal cord. There's a lot of blood vessels, a lot of things that could go wrong. And say something does go wrong at the operating table, while very unlikely, especially with the people there, if it does go wrong and I am 29 years old now, I have to live the rest of my life with something potentially life-threatening or potentially life-altering, as opposed to if this tumor does continue to grow at the slow pace that they believe it will, and I have to get it done at 40 years old, and I have something go wrong. That's 10 years between the ages of 30 and 40 that I've had good quality of life with my wife and my one kid, and soon to be 2 kids. And he explained that to me in a way that was understandable for me. May not have been what I wanted to hear, but it was what I needed to hear. So we are stuck with a brain tumor in the back of my head, right below the base of my cerebellum, and it will remain there until the foreseeable future. We have to go back to the drawing board to figure out why my legs are going numb. We have to go back to the drawing board to figure out why I'm having balance issues, why I'm having strength loss, why I'm having headaches. I've lost about 70 pounds on my bench in the last 6 months, from 405 on the bench to around 330. There's a lot of unknowns in the future, but I know the Lord's got it in his control. He was gracious enough to more than likely let me see my daughter be born and my son grow up, and that was something that I wasn't expecting to see 5 months ago or 3 months ago when I first got diagnosed with brain cancer. There are no hard feelings to the doctor who initially misdiagnosed me with brain cancer. She was only doing her job. I have redacted all names of the doctors who treated me, so no one can try to harass them. They are doing the best they can. They have a stressful job, and it is a very unknown type of area. If there are any other people out there that watch this that have a brain tumor that is benign and they live with their brain tumor on a day-to-day basis, if you don't mind, put in the comments or reach out to me somehow and just let me know how your life has been since you've been diagnosed with a benign brain tumor and how you're living with it and how you get over the fact that it's just there. I'm not struggling with the fact that it's still there, but it's always in the back of my head. I appreciate you guys watching to the end. I hope you guys have a blessed day. And as always, hold the line until next time. Peace.